Before I started my transition, it was a really rough time for me. I was incredibly dysphoric in my body. I had really bad depression all throughout middle school and through most of my high school life. I was actually suicidal a couple of times. I didn't go through with it, and eventually, over time, I kind of came to the conclusion that maybe there's something wrong here, and like through a bit of research, my junior year, I eventually found the definition for the word transgender, and I immediately thought, okay, that's me. We need to get this done. We need to start moving down this path and make sure that I'm not depressed anymore.
Transgender is a term that's been used in a wide variety of ways. It started being used as a way of describing people who maybe didn't transition but didn't think of themselves as cross-dressers. That was a very specific meaning in the 70s, but it's come to mean it's an umbrella term for anybody who's born in a gender that doesn't suit them.
For me, it just kind of means that I was born just not correctly. It's almost like a birth defect in my mind. Like, oh, something went wrong, so now I have to fix it and move forward with that and try to be who I can, like try to be who I want to be. The first time I came out, my mom looked at me and said, I don't know what that is. I'm going to go Google it, get a few books on the issue, and then I'll come back to you. So essentially they were doing a lot of research at first, just trying to figure out like what the word transgender means and what was going on. But once they figured that out, they kind of got a little bit settled with that. They've been incredibly supportive.
She came out to us when she was 16, 17 years old in her junior year. And I'm very proud that we were supportive right off the bat. And we have supported her through school district issues and a variety of other things.
I try and take a pretty straightforward approach. I try and take my cues from Rowan as far as what she is ready for and what she wants to do. So when she's like, I want the hormones, it's like, okay, and I'm calling the nurses, and I'm calling the doctors, and I'm recalling the nurses, and I'm recalling the doctors.
The most difficult part of it has just been coming out, especially at school. That's probably one of the most difficult events that I've gone through, especially when it comes to coming out to all of your teachers, because there's a degree of, like, you don't really know who your teachers are, but they know who you are, so it's a little bit freaky when you come out for the first time. Even if you've done it before, when every time you come out to like a new person, you just kind of get that little bit of an edge. Butterflies in your stomach. So I think that that's probably the most difficult part of being transgender for me.
A Christian radio station targeted her and she was outed by a radio station in town when she was changing her band uniform with the girls. Band uniforms go on over regular clothes, shorts and t-shirts, and somebody got upset. We're not sure whether it was a parent or a teacher. Got upset enough to contact a radio station and say that there was a transgender teen boy changing with the girls. And so throughout it, they misgendered Rowan, treated her as if she was a predator, as if she was a sexual deviant of sorts.
Are we going to just erase all gender lines? The goal here is to normalize this so the girls don't feel uncomfortable with a boy. A boy, we are told, and I can't confirm this obviously, is attracted to girls. How are you ever going to keep a totally straight guy who wants to see girls undress taking advantage of this?
It was a very, very rough time for us. I think it was a dark time, a time when we thought that our community was against us.
I think often that when people hear, parents especially hear about transgender people, they just assume that there's some kind of perverse sexuality going on too, when in fact, no. Transgender students are just like every other student. They just need a safe place to be. They want to be respected as the person they are. It's not really very complicated. People complicate it with the kinds of things they imagine or fear about transgender people, but when it comes down to it, most transgender people really just want to get about their day, you know, do well in school, go on to college, get a job. The assumptions about them often come with these very old associations that are that scare people and make them nervous.
it really takes a lot out of me if people misgender me. Like, I think that a lot of people don't think that misgendering is that big of a deal, but like it can really take a chunk out of you if you're just like in public not doing anything and all of a sudden you get bam, you're misgendered, and it's like, oh, now I have to worry about this and now I have to worry about that. So I think it's just like misgendering is just a huge problem, and I think that more people should be aware of it, especially in public places where you could accidentally get outed or something.
Often people think that trans people are being sort of picky or finicky, but the reality is if your average woman got called sir 5 times a day, she would be kind of upset about that, right? So trying to remember that we all have genders, we all have gender expressions that we would like to have respected and taken seriously by other people is really important.
As a parent, you want desperately to protect your child, but just having a transgender child teaches you that you can't necessarily predict what is going to happen with your child anyway.
The world is not full of little boxes, and the world is not binary. It's not all zeros and ones. It's every color, every spectrum, everything. And if you are ignorant about something, do some research into it. Don't let previous sources of information, which may be more biased than others, taint your view going forward.
I think knowing transgender people often is the greatest education that when people realize that they're not expecting necessarily a big flamboyant drag queen, and that your average transgender girl is just a girl. As well, kind of an attitude that's more compassionate or more able to see that other people's experiences may not be the same as your own.
This child is your same child. You still love them. They still love you. They need you more than ever. One thing, get on board at as good a pace as you can. And if you're going to make mistakes, mistakes happen, but recover, move forward. This is about making your child as safe as possible.
We're immensely proud of Rowan. She is an example of what you can do when you stand in your truth and you say, this is who I am, like it or not.
As a transgender person, like, don't be afraid to start your transition. Don't be afraid to come out to the people you know, because you will find a couple of enemies, but while you do find that, you'll also find like triple that number in people who support you, and friends and family who do want you to be happy and continue on with your life as you want it to be. I feel the same, just less depressed, more happy, and like willing to go and do things now. So that's pretty much who I am. Just the same as me before, but a little bit different and a lot happier.